Hello, it's Rebecca and today is another book review day and this is my 26th, that sounds about right, book that I've been reading for the 2015 reading challenge. I will put a little link down below in the description box to explain what the challenge is about, but basically it's to read 52 books over a year with each book coming from a different category. And the category that this book comes from is a book at the bottom of my to-read list, and my to-read list doesn't really have any sort of order, so this is just a book from my to-read list. Put it at the bottom if you want, it's entirely up to you. So this week I have been reading The Diary of a Young Girl by Anne Frank. So I will read you the blurb and then talk to you about the book. The Diary of a Young Girl remains the single most poignant true life story to emerge from the Second World War. In July 1942, Anne Frank and her family, fleeing the horrors of Nazi occupation, hid in the back of an Amsterdam warehouse. Anne was 13 when the family went into the secret annex, and over the next 2 years, she vividly describes in her diary the frustrations of living in such confined quarters, the constant threat of discovery, the hunger and fear. Her diary ends abruptly when, in August 1944, she and her family were finally discovered by the Nazis. Anne Frank died in March 1945, aged 15, in Bergen-Belsen concentration camp in Germany. This book provides a deeply moving and unforgettable portrait of Anne Frank, an ordinary and yet an extraordinary teenage girl. So this is a book that I have wanted to read for a while. It's been floating around on my to-read list for years. Just never got around to reading it, no real reason. And I thought, well, this gives me the opportunity to read it. It's difficult to give this book a review because it is such a sad story. I mean, I've read things like The Book Thief and The Boy in the Striped Pyjamas, and although they're fiction based on fact, this actually happened. And for those of you that don't really know the story of Anne Frank, she was a young girl, a Jew, during the Second World War and the Nazi occupation, and she was living in Holland. And with the Jews, they had to wear yellow stars sewn onto their clothes when they were out, so people could recognise who they were. The Jews were considered to be evil, and Hitler wanted to get rid of them all, and many of them had to flee the country or go into hiding or just do anything really that would keep them alive, or that they hoped would keep them alive. Any Jews found were taken off to concentration camps and horrific things were done to them. And no matter how much I may hate a person, I could never understand a human being treating another human being the way the Nazis treated the Jews. It's just horrible. I'm genuinely speechless, and like I say, having read a couple of fiction books based on the Nazi occupation, I just cannot believe humanity would stoop that low. So anyway, so Anne and her family, she's got her sister Margot and her mother and father, and they have to go into hiding. The Nazis are occupying Holland, and they move into a secret annex in a building out the back with another family and some other people. And the building has a business front, but behind a bookcase upstairs it leads to this secret passage, which then leads to a few floors of secret rooms. And from what I can gather, it's very small, very compact, everyone's so close to each other, but they did this to stay alive. I actually went to the Anne Frank House Museum in Amsterdam a few years ago, and it is horrible. It is absolutely horrible. So worth seeing, and if you ever get a chance to go there, go there. But seeing how small everything is, how cramped, how... oh, just horrible, horrible conditions. From what I can gather from this diary, and it is a diary of a young girl, which we have to remember when reading this. She is only 13, and if you were 13, well, everybody was 13, but if you were 13 and wrote a diary, it would all be full of things that you got up to at school with your friends, what you did at your birthday party. It might have little bits in it about boys that you have a crush on. And that's what this is. This is a young girl's diary. She's so innocent and childlike. And from what I can gather, is the family was quite rich. For birthdays, they'd receive jewellery and books and clothes and lots of things that at that time during the war would have been scarce. So they did have quite a lot of stuff. But in this house, they had nothing. They just had a few clothes and bits of food here and there, bits of food that other people could smuggle up, people that were hiding them and keeping them a secret. And it just seems horrific. I can't even imagine what it must be like to be so scared of your life. There's sections in here where they're not allowed to move. I mean, just not moving for hours in case they creak a floorboard or something bangs something or makes a noise. They can't run the water. They can't use the toilet. There's bits where they have to all use the toilet, which is just a bowl, all in the same room. They can't even move and have their privacy at some points. It is just horrific. I couldn't even, like I say, I couldn't even imagine what it must be like to be that scared and that afraid and that terrified of being found and being killed. And they know that these things are happening to the Jews. They've heard on the news that Jews are being snatched and taken away. And bless her, Anne keeps seeing the positive in things. Every now and then she'll say, oh, I've heard some news that the war will be over soon. And the saddest thing, I think, is every now and then she talks about her future. She wonders which boy she's going to marry, and she wants to be a journalist when she's older. And reading it and knowing full well that these dreams could never come true for her, it's so sad knowing that they died unnecessarily, that there was no reason behind their death. They weren't terrorists, they weren't bad people. They were just people. My mind can't comprehend that sort of behaviour, and it is horrible. She finds out that if anyone has been keeping a diary or a journal, that after the war there's someone somewhere wants to publish first-hand accounts of events that have taken place. And Anne is really excited that when the war finishes, she's going to send off her diary that she's been writing so that other people can read about her life. And little does she know that it will become one of the most seminal books about the Second World War. And it's knowing the ending, knowing that her life finishes so suddenly, just all those words just break your heart, knowing that she's innocently thinking, oh, when the war finishes we can come out of hiding and I can be a writer and I can get married and all these things that she wants for her family and for herself, and they can't ever come true. So I wouldn't say it's the most exciting book I've ever read, but we have to remember it's a diary. It's the diary of a young girl. It lists little things that she does, little silly things. She's a child. Stories that she makes up. She notes down little strange things about all the people she's living with. She talks about all the arguments they have. I mean, I don't know what I would do in that situation, but there's so many arguments, and I guess that's because you're just confined to such small, close quarters that you don't have your space. You can't open the window. You can't go outside. You can't do all the things that we take for granted every day. I think I would have gone mad. And I think she writes this diary as a way of purging her brain of all of this horrific stuff that is going on. And yeah, like I say, there's no action, there's no you know, it's not quick paced. It does take a little while to read. It can be a bit boring in places, but that's because it's a diary. And her life must have been so boring. Her life must have been so dull and drab. And, you know, even when people in the house get ill and they're too afraid to sneeze or cough, just in case somebody downstairs finds them or hears them. And it is, oh, the only word I can use to describe it is horrific, but it is worth reading just to experience how someone so young and so innocent, and someone who doesn't understand, I mean, she doesn't understand the politics or who these people are or what they're doing. She is still so young, and it's almost seeing things through completely pure eyes. She's questioning things, she wonders, she's curious, and she's a dreamer, and it's lovely. It's lovely that she, even while all this is going on, she's still dreaming of her future, and she's still hoping that wonderful things can come after what can only be described as one of the worst things to have ever happened on this planet. So read it. Don't expect to enjoy it per se, but it will certainly stick with you, and it will make you think, and it will hopefully make you realise that everybody is human and we can't just treat people like animals. It's, how would you feel in that situation? And all the way through this I was thinking, what would I do? What would I do in this tiny little room? I mean, I can't bear going more than 3 days without washing my hair, and there were days and days and weeks where they couldn't wash anything at all. And it's simple things, like I say, that we take for granted, that these poor people just wish they had. Simple things like fresh air and sunshine. So read it and ponder on it and take it in, because it's very good. It's very good. So if you'd like to hear any of my other book reviews, then please subscribe to my channel. I put out new videos every time I've read a book. I occasionally give writing advice and do shameless self-promotion where I talk about my own work. So if you're interested in reading and or writing, then please subscribe to my channel, and I will see you soon. Have a good day. Bye bye.